She left his house twice a week. He never asked where. Nadia Brooks set the last plate down without a sound, because in this house, sound was a thing her husband collected and returned to you later. A black woman at a table the length of a border. Once, she saved lives in a trauma ward. Now she counted minutes by the clock behind his head. Across from her sat Seo Kang-joon, the Black Viper. 38, dark suit, a viper inked near his throat that moved when he swallowed. He ran an empire on fear. He ate the way he did business. Precise, unhurried. The steel and black watch caught the light each time he lifted his fork. "The braise is good," he said. "Thank you." That was the conversation. All of it. Tuesdays, she left at 4. A separate driver, a separate route, a phone he had never touched. The wine-red coat came off in the car, and a charcoal raincoat went on, hood up, and by the gray door she was no one's wife. A girl of 8 waited there with a cut on her arm and a drawing she would not put down. Kang-joon thought it was the gym, the aunt, the small weather of a wife. He had built a fortress around this woman and never once wondered what she carried out of it. Then Thursday came. It rained sideways. She went anyway. She always went. By 9:47, her phone was dead. She had not come home. And what he found when he went looking. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Nadia set the last plate down without a sound, because sound was a thing Kang-joon collected and returned to you later. The dining table stretched between them like a border. She took her chair, he took his. 2 men in dark suits stood near the door, hands folded, watching nothing and everything. He ate the way he did business, precise, unhurried. The steel and black watch caught the light each time he lifted his fork. "The braise is good," he said. "Thank you." That was the conversation, all of it. She counted the minutes by the clock behind his head. 15 more and the meal would end. Then he would go to his study, and the study door would close, and the house would exhale. She had learned the rhythm of this marriage the way you learn a language you never chose to speak. Jun-ho appeared in the doorway, gloved, silent, and leaned to Kang-joon's ear. Whatever he said moved nothing on Kang-joon's face. He set down his fork. He turned the platinum band on his finger once, a small circular motion, the way he did when a name he disliked entered the room. "Business," he told her, not an apology, a schedule. "Go," she said, and meant it. He stood. He touched the back of her chair as he passed, not her shoulder, the chair. And then he was gone, down the corridor, with Jun-ho behind him, and the 2 suits after that. The braise cooled on his plate. She looked at it for a moment. Then she stacked his plate on hers and carried both to the kitchen herself, because the staff had learned to let her. Tuesdays, she left at 4. She never announced it, and he never asked. By 3:40, the wine-red coat was on, and the crossbody bag was across her body, and she was in the back of a car that was not his car, driven by a man who was not his man. That had cost her 11 months of small arrangements to build. A separate driver, a separate route, a phone he had never touched. The car took the coast road and then the wrong turnpike and then a street the family maps did not care about. She watched the city thin out through the window. Somewhere behind her, in a house the size of a bank, her husband was deciding who kept their kneecaps this week. She pressed her wedding band with her thumb and made herself stop. At the corner she got out 2 blocks early and walked the rest. Habit. The charcoal raincoat came out of the bag and went over the coat, hood up, and by the time she reached the gray door, she was no one's wife. Min-seo was waiting with a clipboard, and the scar on her eyebrow pulled tight. "You're late by 6 minutes," she said. "We had a runner." "Which room?" "Back. She won't put the drawing down." Nadia went back. A girl of 8 sat on a cot in a yellow hoodie 3 sizes too big, both hands wrapped around a folded piece of paper. Crayon bled through where her fingers pressed. Yoonji, Nadia said, and knelt. It's Tuesday. You know what Tuesday is? The girl held out one arm without looking up. Nadia cleaned the cut on it, taped it, and did not ask how it happened, because the woman 2 cots over had the same shape of bruise and Nadia had learned which questions closed a door forever. She worked for 4 hours. She restocked the shelf of blister packs from the pharmacy receipts folded in her bag. She wrote 3 names in a notebook, none of them the real names of the people they belonged to. She held a phone that was not hers, while a mother in the corner cried into her sleeve so the children would not hear. At 8, she pulled the hood back up. Min-seo caught her arm at the door. You give too much and tell us nothing, Min-seo said. One day I'll need to reach you and I won't know how. You won't need to, Nadia said, and left. Kang-joon did not know any of this. He knew she left on Tuesdays. He thought it was the gym, or her aunt, or the small, unknowable weather of a wife. He had built a fortress around this woman and never once wondered what she carried out of it twice a week. Thursday it rained. Not the soft rain the coast usually gave. A wall of it, sideways, gutters choking, the kind that turned 2 blocks into a decision. She went anyway. She always went. There was a delivery that could not wait, insulin in a cooler bag, and a girl with a cut arm who counted days. Kang-joon spent that Thursday in the East Warehouse listening to Do-won's name come up too many times. Han Do-won, burgundy blazer, that cane, that split earlobe, a man who smiled before he took. By 7, Kang-joon had stopped listening to the room and started turning his ring. He came home at 9. The house was dark in the way that meant no one had turned the lights on for hours. He stood in the hall and listened for the exhale of the place and did not hear it. Where is she? He said. Jun-ho checked the earpiece, the phone, the log. Her driver signed off at 4. No return. Call her. It rang once and cut to nothing. He tried again. The line was dead by 9:47. He stood very still in his own hallway, water still on his shoulders, and understood a thing he had built his whole empire to never feel. His wife had walked out of his house twice a week for a year, and he could not name one street she walked down. He turned the ring. It did not help. Get me the driver, he said. The real one, not hers. Park Jun-ho set the box on the table without a word, then stepped back to the wall. Kang-joon looked at it for a long moment before he touched it. Nadia's things. All of them fit in one box. He lifted the lid. Receipts. Dozens of them, folded into neat quarters, held with a rubber band. Pharmacy names he had never heard her mention. Amoxicillin. Insulin. A brand of burn cream sold only through hospital supply. Cash payments, every one. No card, no trail, no husband's name anywhere near them. He spread them across the glass like a man dealing cards to himself. She was buying medicine, Jun-ho said. For who? Under the receipts, 3 notebooks. He opened the first. Columns in her handwriting, tight and slanted, the way she wrote grocery lists. But these were not groceries. Names. Kim Soo-ah, Han Bo-ram. A woman listed only as the one from Incheon. Beside each name, dates. Beside the dates, small marks he could not read. A system built for one reader, and that reader was not him. He turned a page and stopped. A child's drawing. Yellow crayon, a house with a crooked roof, 2 figures holding hands. In the corner, in blocky letters, a small hand had pressed hard enough to tear the paper. One word. Yoonji. Kang-joon did not know that name. He had shared a bed with this woman for 4 years, and he did not know a single name in her own handwriting. There's a phone, Jun-ho said. He reached past him and lifted a cheap plastic thing from the bottom of the box. Black, scratched, the kind bought with cash and thrown in a river. Kang-joon took it. 1 number in the call log, dialed 40 times. No name saved. He pressed the ring on his finger, felt it turn. Find where this phone lives, he said, tonight. The trail took Jun-ho 6 hours and a bribe. A building in a district Kang-joon owned 3 streets of, and had never once walked. No sign out front. Laundry drying on a second-floor rail. A steel door with a keypad and a camera angled to catch faces. Kang-joon stood in front of it at dawn and pressed the buzzer with one knuckle. The woman who opened it did not step back when she saw him. Steel-rimmed glasses. Gray cardigan. A scar splitting one eyebrow like a seam. She looked at his suit, his shoes, the man behind him with the earpiece, and she understood exactly what he was. "We're full," she said, and started to close the door. His hand stopped it. "My wife," he said. "Nadia Brooks." Something crossed the woman's face and was buried. "I don't know that name. You called it 40 times. For a moment, nobody moved. Then she let go of the door and let it swing, which was its own kind of answer. Inside smelled of rice and antiseptic. A common room with mismatched chairs. Children's shoes lined by a wall, small, so small. A girl of maybe 8 sat in the corner in a yellow hoodie, coloring, and did not look up. Women moved through the far hall and went quiet when they saw him, the way a room goes quiet when a wolf walks in wearing a coat. "Yoon Min-so," the woman said. She did not offer her hand. "I run this place. And you shouldn't be here." "Where is she?" "I was going to ask you the same thing." Min-so folded her arms. "She missed Tuesday. She never misses. So either you know where she is, or you're the reason I don't." The accusation landed clean. Kang-joon held it without flinching. "She came here," he said. "Not a question. Every week, 2 years." Min-so watched him take that in. "You didn't know." He looked at the shoes by the wall. "What did she do here?" Min-so studied him a moment longer, weighing something, then turned and walked. He followed. Down the hall, past a kitchen, to a small office with a locked cabinet. She opened it with a key from around her neck and pulled a file, thick, worn soft at the corners. "She fixed people," Min-so said. "The ones who come in broken and can't go to a hospital because a hospital asks questions." She knew triage. She knew how to set a wrist, how to hide a woman until the swelling went down. "She paid for what I couldn't." She set the file on the desk and did not hand it to him. Kang-joon opened it himself. Photographs. A woman with her eye swollen shut. Another with a wrist bent wrong. Intake forms in Nadia's hand. He turned pages the way he had turned the notebook, faster now. And then he stopped the way a man stops when the floor is not where he thought it was. A name he knew. Not a victim's name. A name from his own ledger. One of his men. Listed as the reason a woman named Bo Ram had come in with 3 broken fingers. He turned the page. Another name he knew. Han Do-won's driver. Then a name that collected debts for Kang-joon himself. In the file beside a girl who could not speak for a week. The women his wife had been stitching back together in secret had been broken by the world he ran. His men. His rivals. His empire. Reaching into rooms he never saw. And Nadia walking behind it with thread and cash, sewing shut what he tore open. His hand was not steady on the page. Min-se watched him understand it. "She never told you," she said. "She said if you knew, you'd burn it all down." And burning it down wasn't the point. Tucked in the back of the file, a folded sheet with his name on it, his full name, in her hand. He opened it. One line. "If I don't return, don't burn the world before you ask why I was trying to save it." Kang-joon read it twice. Then he looked up at the girl in the yellow hoodie down the hall, coloring, still not looking at anyone, and he understood that he had never known his wife at all, and that whatever had taken her was bigger than a grudge, bigger than him. He folded the note along her creases and put it in the inside pocket, over his chest. "Who took her?" he said. Min-seo's jaw tightened. "That," she said, "is the wrong first question." Park Jun-ho set the tablet on the desk and slid it toward Kang-joon with one gloved finger. "Watch the timestamp, not the woman," he said. The footage ran silent. Nadia in the shelter's back corridor, a bag over her shoulder, then a service door she had never used, then a van with no plates. Two men flanked her before she reached the street, and her hand came up, not to wave, not to flee, to point. She pointed at the security camera. At them, at Kang-joon, wherever he would one day be sitting. She didn't run, Jun-ho said. His earpiece clicked. She marked the lens for us. She knew we'd pull this. Kang-joon turned the ring on his finger. Once, twice. Who moved that van through my district, he said. That's the part, Jun-ho answered, you're going to hate. The answer arrived before he could ask it, hand-delivered by a courier who did not run when the guards seized him. A flat, black box. Inside, a phone already playing. Han Do-dawan filled the screen, seated, both hands stacked on the head of his cane, blazer buttoned to the throat. Kang-joon, he said to the lens, warm as an old friend, I heard your wife got lost. Terrible. A man should keep better track of what he owns. Behind him, out of focus, a chair. Someone in it. Han Do-wan did not turn to look. You took a shipment from me in the spring. You took my cousin's hand at a card table in the summer. So, he lifted the cane and tapped the floor, twice. Patient. I took the one thing you looked at, like it still surprised you. Come get her. Bring your eyes. I want to watch you find her. The screen went black. Then it lit once more. A single still image. Nadia's wedding band, on a strip of gauze, laid across an open palm that was not hers. Kang-joon stood so fast the chair went over behind him. He had spent 3 years teaching men to fear the calm in his face. The calm was gone now, and he could feel it going, and he could not get it back. His hand closed on the tablet edge hard enough to crack the glass. The old humiliation, a man who ran an empire he could not personally read, who signed with a stamp because the fine print swam, who had let a woman walk through his blind spot for 2 years, came back and stood in the room with him, twice its old size. He wants me to come looking, Kang-joon said, blind. In his house. He picked that on purpose. He picked all of it on purpose, Jun-ho said quietly. That's what makes him worse than us. The door opened without a knock. Dr. Lena Brooks did not wait to be announced, and the 2 guards who should have stopped her stood aside, because she had walked past them with the certainty of a woman who had buried people before and was not afraid of a room. Camel coat still on. She stopped a meter from Kang-joon and looked at the cracked tablet, then at him. They told me she vanished 9 days ago, she said. You're all so sure of the day. We have the hour, Kang-joon said. Then you're worse than I thought, because you had years. Her voice never rose. She stopped answering my calls before the wedding, not after. She sent me photographs of a woman I didn't recognize. The smile fitted on like a coat. 2 Christmases she flew 4 hours to see me and looked at the door the whole meal. She stepped closer. She was disappearing the whole time she lived in your house, and you noticed the night she wasn't in the bed. Nothing in the room moved. Even Jung-ho's earpiece went silent. You built a fortress, Lena said, and lost her inside it, and now some man in a red jacket has to steal her before you'll go look for her yourself. Kang-joon did not defend it. That was the thing that would stay with Jun-ho later. The boss said nothing, because there was nothing that wasn't true. He picked the chair up off the floor. He set it upright. His hands were not steady, and he let them not be steady in front of her, which he had never once done for anyone. You're right, he said, about all of it. Across the city, in a basement that smelled of damp concrete, Nadia worked a nail head loose from the leg of her cot and did not put it in her sleeve where they might find it. She pressed it into the seam of the mattress where the girl sat. Yoon-ji hadn't spoken since the van. 8 years old, ankles too thin, a bruise going green on her wrist from a grip that wasn't Nadia's. Han Do-won's men had brought the child down 2 nights ago and forgotten to explain why, which meant there was no good why. When they come, Nadia whispered, you stand behind me, always behind me. You count your breaths. You don't look at their faces. Faces make you cry, and crying makes them stay. She wrapped the nail's point in a thread from her hem so it wouldn't cut the girl. This is yours now, not to fight, to scratch the door where the hinge is. Every day, a little, so someone finds the mark. The girl's fingers closed around it, first thing she'd held on purpose in 2 days. Footsteps on the stair. Nadia moved in front of Yoonji before the bolt turned and made her own face go flat, the coat smile she had worn for 2 years, finally good for something. Back in the office, Kang-joon crossed to the safe and did not open it. He crossed to the window and did not look out. He picked up the courier's phone, replayed the still of the ring on the stranger's palm, and studied the background this time. A stripe of tile, a shadow that fell wrong for street level. He filmed it underground, Kang-joon said. Old building, load-bearing pillars in the frame. He's showing off a place he thinks I can't reach. He set the phone down. So I walk in the front door he wants. Alone, blind, on his terms. Junho stared. That's suicide. That's exactly the picture he drew. I know, Kang-joon said. He turned the ring one last time, then pulled it off and left it on the desk. That's why it's the only door he didn't lock. Lena's hand found the door frame. And if you're wrong? He had no answer that wasn't a lie, so he gave her none and reached for his coat. Kang-joon spread the ledgers across the hood of the car and started pulling threads. Han Do-won kept his records the way old men keep grudges. Precise, dated, folded twice. Park Joon-ho held the flashlight, while Kang-joon ran a finger down a column of shell companies and stopped at one that made no sense. A cleaning contract. A laundry service billed monthly to 3 addresses that were not laundries. Cross these against the shelter registry, he said. Joon-ho hesitated. You already know. He did. He had known since the marigolds. They drove to the first address before dawn. It was a row house behind a shuttered bakery, curtains drawn, a single light burning in the back. Kang-joon didn't knock. He walked the perimeter until he found what he was looking for. A delivery log nailed inside the side door, signatures going back 2 years. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, a different name each time, all in the same hand. He recognized the hand. He had watched it write a grocery list on a napkin once and thought nothing of it. The names were fake. The handwriting was hers. Inside, the walls told the rest. Photographs of women he half remembered from his own reports. Witnesses who had vanished, wives of men his empire had buried, a girl whose father owed a debt that Kang-joon himself had called in. All of them here, all of them alive. Someone had been pulling them out of the water he kept poisoning, one at a time, quietly, for years. He found the account books last, in a floor safe a child could have opened. The funding didn't come from donations. It came from a chain of accounts that folded back, again and again, into a single source. He traced it 3 times to be sure. Every one that built this place had passed through her hands first. Not a volunteer, the architect. The one who signed the checks and forged the names and drove across the city twice a week to undo him. She built it against us, Joon-ho said, low, under our noses. No, Kang-joon closed the book. She built it against me, specifically. Han Do-won had figured it out weeks before he did. That was why he took her, not for leverage over the shelter, but because he'd finally understood what Kang-joon still hadn't, that the woman he let walk his halls on Tuesday afternoons was the only person alive quietly dismantling the machine he ran. The warehouse Do-won used sat at the edge of the docks. Kang-joon went in through the loading bay with 6 men and a plan that lasted 4 seconds, because the plan assumed she would run to him. She didn't. He found her in the holding room with the others. Yoonji asleep against her shoulder in the yellow hoodie, 2 women behind her, a third he didn't know pressing a cloth to a split lip. Nadia had her back to the door and her arms out, a fence of one body between Do-won's men and the rest. When the shooting started, she didn't move toward the exit. She moved the children first. It took 20 minutes to clear the building. It took Nadia 40 to leave it, because she would not walk out until every other person was already gone. She carried Yoonji herself. She counted heads twice at the door. Only then, with the last woman loaded into Yoon Min-so's van and the siren still distant, did she turn and look at him. Kang-joon crossed the space between them and lifted his hand toward her face. He stopped. His fingers hung there, an inch from her cheek, and then he lowered them. He had not earned the reach. He understood that now, that touching her would be one more thing he took, because he could. Nadia watched his hand fall. "Now that you found me," she said, "are you finally ready to know me?" He had no clean answer, so he gave her the true one. "No, but I want to be." "That's not enough." "I know." She didn't fall into him. She didn't thank him. She adjusted Yoonji's weight on her hip and studied his face the way she studied a ledger, looking for what didn't add up. "You want to fix this in one night," she said. "A rescue, a grand gesture, then we're even." She shook her head. "I've spent 2 years fixing what you break. You don't get to fix me back with a bullet." The next morning, he didn't send flowers. He sent files. He gave the shelter the 3 shell addresses and the names of every man who guarded them. He signed over the laundry contracts. Then he went further than she asked, because she had asked for nothing. He dismantled the debt collection arm that had put half those women in danger to begin with, called in Jun-ho, and started tearing out the parts of his own house that made places like the shelter necessary. It was slow. It was ugly. Men he'd known for 20 years stopped taking his calls. Some threatened him. One tried worse. Nadia didn't watch the gestures. She watched the pattern. She showed up on Tuesdays and Thursdays and saw whether the promise from Monday still stood on Friday. When a safe house he funded got raided, she watched how he answered it. When it would have been easier to lie, she watched whether he did. He didn't ask to be forgiven. He kept showing up. Weeks turned into a season of it. The shelter became a network. Real doors, real locks, a legal fund, 3 new houses in 3 cities. All of it built on money that used to buy silence. Yoon Min-seo ran the intake. Dr. Nadia Brooks vetted every donation. Yoonji started talking again. First to Nadia, then, one afternoon, to him. He came the following Tuesday and found Nadia in the courtyard, sleeves up, planting something in the cold ground. She didn't stand when she heard him. She handed him the second trowel. He knelt beside her and dug where she pointed. She let him stay. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever shared a table with someone who was present every day, yet never truly heard you, until presence became abandonment? Have you ever loved a person for years without ever really knowing what they carried out of the house each week? And have you ever quietly saved others, asking nothing back, while no one knew the weight you were holding alone? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about love, truth, and redemption, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.